You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hi, and thanks for coming back again to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis, where we're following me on my hike of the AT this year, as well as some of my class of 2019. In fact, I'm going to catch up with some of those very soon. Last time I spoke with you, I was at the Standing Bear Farm, which is really a place that needs to be experienced, but I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm now in Hot Springs at one of my very favourite places on the entire trail, Elmer's or Sunnybank Inn, but we'll come to that also in a little while. But let's go back when I was about to leave Standing Bear Farm a few days ago. Day 29, Standing Bear Farm, which is near mile 240.8, and there is some dispute about that, to Roaring Fork Shelter, mile 257, which makes it look like a 16-mile day. I don't think it was quite as long as that, though. I want to say a word about Standing Bear Farm, before and now. When I came here before, it was kind of chaotic, but it really all worked, and I really, really enjoyed it. But now, what they've got going on now is just extraordinary. They've got this guy, I can't remember his name, was it Greg or something? He provides hot food, and somebody else provides breakfast. They have a breakfast burrito. They have lunch where I had two hot dogs with chili sauce, which was beautiful. And then dinner, he grills everything up, and he did two beautiful pieces of chicken with barbecue sauce and salad, and just great food. It is such a wonderful place to be, I've got to tell you. You can have the whole 9 yards. And the amazing thing about it, and this was the same as last time, it's all done on the honour system. When you come in, you go into the resupply cabin, tons of stuff around there. You can just help yourself. Take whatever you want, and you write it down on your piece of paper, which you keep with you, which you also use for the hot food as well. And that honour system, at the end of it, they tot it all up, or you tot it all up. They trusted my addition, which I'm pleased they did, because I think it was right. I did over $100 because I stayed in the cabin, which was great. I shared with Lady Di and Sleprock, and that was fun. Sleprock, rather, and that was fun. I had the breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing. I had a big resupply. I had 3 or 4 beers. The whole place just works. It worked well before. It works so much better now. And people stay on, often for 4 or 5 days. It really is Hotel California. You get there, you can never check out, I tell you. Some people just love that place, and they work for stay. They're building something in the stream, and some paths and paths, and putting rocks in. People muck in and help out, and they get work for stay. I could not recommend that place anymore. But I wasn't there to work for stay. I was there to get on with it. So at the start, after I left with my 2 breakfast burritos sloshing around inside my stomach, there was a big climb at the very start. And I knew that the second shelter was the key to get into Hot Springs with just 2 overnight stops and a Nero. What I mean by that, I think it was about 30 miles. And the first shelter was, despite the mileage I've told you, it was probably about 14 miles, 15 miles. And then I would have had something like 17 or 18 miles into Hot Springs. I couldn't have made that. Those extra 3 miles would have been too tough for me. So I was going to get to within about 3 or 4 miles of Hot Springs. The idea was that I would then hike the last 3 miles into Hot Springs, have breakfast at the Smoky Mountain Diner, and have the time all day to do what I wanted to do some laundry, do my resupply, basically regain my equilibrium. Because in many ways, that's what you do when you go into town. You regain your equilibrium. You're kind of smashed about by the trail a bit, but you just restore things in your mind, and you get cleaner, and you have a proper shower and things like that. And I think those things are really kind of important. So I really knew that second shelter was the key to getting through the hot springs. And that big climb at the start, my breakfast burritos just got me up there. And I carried on through the day, obviously, and I started to run out of water, and that's never a good thing. And I hesitate to say that I got a little bit disoriented because I wasn't drinking enough water. But it says there was a spring at Brown Gap. I could not find it. I had no idea where it was. And I had no water left at all. And I still had about 4 or 5 miles to go. I started to get a little bit nervous, a little bit panicky in that. But then you get to the start of the climb to Max Patch. And Max Patch is one of these, my favourite things again, a bald, which is basically a meadow at the top of a mountain. And I was walking along the little pathway, you plunge back into the woods, and I heard water beside me. There was a stream about 15, 20 feet down, something like that. And I thought, I've just got to have some of that water. I was desperate for it by then. And I could see that somebody had plowed their way through in the same probably anxiety to get water that I had. They'd plowed their way through the bushes and slipped. There was a big slip in the mud. But I thought, well, I should be able to ease my way down. So I eased my way down, holding onto the tree, and put my foot in the mud next to the slip or the slide. And guess what happened? I fell, of course. So that was fall number 4. I shouted out, "Number 4!" and got up and carried on and got my water and clambered back up again, a bit bruised and a bit muddy. 20 hours later, the path just turned a little bit right and straight over the stream. I could have got the water out dead easy, but I just didn't. But I continued the climb up to Max Patch, and it was quite steep towards the end. I just knew it was going to be clouded out. We'd been in the cloud all day anyway. And when I got there, while you could still get the feeling of what the place was like, this open meadow with the wind whipping around us, there was still some snow at the top as well. There's a feeling of freedom on the top of a bald that the forest doesn't quite give you. There's the breeze all around you. There's hopefully the views all around you. Well, we didn't have those that day, and I absolutely loved it. But I knew the shelter was about 1.9 miles downhill, and I felt that I'd really accomplished quite a bit by getting all the way to the shelter that day. And by the time, of course, I got to the shelter, the clouds suddenly lifted and the sun came out. We must have missed the view at the top of Max Patch by about an hour and a half, because somebody came in later, said he spent quite a bit of time up there. It was just absolutely glorious up there. But you know what? That's what I always say. You take the views when you can, and when they're not there, they're just not there. There's nothing you can do about it. I stepped in the shelter once more, and it was still kind of wet on the ground, so I didn't really want to set my tent up. And it turned really, really cold overnight again. Fortunately not cold enough to freeze my soya, but I thought overall it was a darn good day. Day 30, Roaring Fork Shelter, mile 257, to Deer Park Mountain Shelter, mile 271.7. So I got to where I was aiming for, which was a good thing. This was a shorter day than the day before that seemed so much longer. The first 3.5 miles, I think it was, were gently downhill. There was no knee stress, and the sun was warming everything really nicely. I felt I was really going. I think I did those 3.5 miles in about, I think just over an hour and 20 minutes. I was comfortable. I was striding long, and I really felt it was. I was getting my pace going really well. But then the climbs came. I think they were. None of them were too strenuous, but each one was really quite tiring. And I seemed to run out of gas really easily. I'm not sleeping well, and I think that is is contributing to my difficulty in getting up hills. But also, I'm just not eating enough food, and I know I'm not eating enough food, and I need to remedy that, and I've tried to do that since I've been in Hot Springs, by the way. The first place we went over was a place called Walnut Mountain. Had a lovely board at the top and a nice little shelter as well. I was rather hoping to meet up with Ugg at the shelter, but he'd gone on, so I decided to go on myself as well. Met a couple of old guys up there who were very chatty, and we just talked about what a beautiful place it was, and it was just a really nice little climb up. You can climb up from the car park there, and these guys have done exactly that, and were really enjoying themselves. And started going down, obviously, from Walnut Mountain, but then I hit the climb up Bluff Mountain. It was endless. But worse than the up being endless, with tons and tons and tons of false summits, and those of you who have ever climbed will know what false summits are. You think you're at the top, you see the ridge line at the top, and suddenly you can turn a corner, and there's a whole lot more to go up as well. But the worst bit was the climb down. The climb down literally seemed to be endless. And for the first time on this trip, it was boring. It went literally from side to side to side. These switchbacks were cut into the mountain. And just for those of you who may be listening who are a little bit behind me, and there obviously are some of you now as the bubble is starting to congregate, I guess, there are lots and lots of eroded edges. And the foot placement, even for me, this early on, was really quite often hazardous. If I'm thinking that the upside of the mountain is on my right side and the downside is on my left side, I'm walking along and my left foot was often at an angle right on the edge. It was pretty slippery, but not too bad. And I think with more and more people walking on the ledges in the next couple of weeks, they are going to become very, very eroded and very, very hazardous. So I'd warn you all to look out for that climb down from Bluff Mountain. I mean, the up is tough as anything, but the down really is tough. When I got to the camp, there was a shelter just for 5 people. I thought there's no way there'll be enough room for me, but all that was there was a guy called Shoeless, and you'll find out later why he's called Shoeless, and the Bens. The Bens are father and son, Ben, and as his father calls him, Benjamin. Really, really genuine people. Really, really like all 3 of them, and I thoroughly enjoyed the day the evening with them. But in fact, I set up my tent. I thought I just want to get back in my tent. The shelters are pretty lousy anyway, and I was told the following morning that they'd been full of mice, so that was a good thing. I didn't have any mice at all. And getting back in your tent, it gives you this feeling of freedom once more that you get on the board. You know, the whole thing about camping and hiking for me is that luxury of getting inside your tent and getting inside your sleeping bag at the end of a long day. And I really, really enjoyed it. And so the 4 of us sat round, we had a really nice dinner and a chat in the warmth until the sun dropped behind the mountain and really cooled dramatically. I tried to speak with the Bens previously, and they were kind of reluctant to be interviewed because they said they had nothing to say. And that couldn't be further from the truth. They're just such lovely guys. They really are. They've got plenty to say. But anyway, I spoke with the younger Ben. I said to him, look, do you want to say something the next day to somebody? So I spoke to him the following morning. When you hear what he has to say, you're going to understand why I'm playing it on this particular day. Here's young Ben.
Okay, I'm here at Deer Park Mountain Shelter, I think it is, with Ben Hawkins-Smith. And he's here actually hiking with his dad, Ben Hawkins-Smith, as well. They are known as the Bens. Hi, Ben, how are you?
Good, how are you?
You having a good time?
Yes, sir.
But you're about to take a couple of days off, aren't you?
Yes, we're about to go Cherokee and fish a little bit.
But before you do that, there's something you want to say to somebody else, wasn't there?
Yes, sir. I wanted to wish Heather Madry a happy birthday, and I hope you ain't missing me too bad.
Quite right, too. So this is, you're going to do a through hike?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And when do you reckon you're going to finish? When do you think?
We're shooting for 6 months, but we're just taking it day by day.
And you're enjoying it a lot, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
I can tell every time. Ben so far has lent me some water, he's given me some water, he's given me some tuna, he's given me some mayonnaise. So he's a great provider of stuff. And your dad enjoying it as well?
Oh, yeah.
Because he does want to speak. Oh, he's now grinning at us out from the shelter. He may be about to speak. Let's speak to the other Ben Hawkins-Smith. Hi, Ben.
His dad is having a great time.
All right. So what is it about the trail, you two? What do you think? What's the thing that's really struck you?
Oh, it's just when you wake up every morning and you look out and everything looks so beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
It is beautiful.
I mean, I know I was going on about it a bit last night, but the light in this shelter is incredible, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
With the trees being lit up by the sun in the morning and that. So what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to probably Mount Katahdin.
Oh, yeah?
Think about it every day.
Do you? Really?
Think about it every day.
Way too early to be thinking about it.
Way too early.
Think about McAfee Knob. That's more doable than Katahdin's about 1,400 miles after that. So
yes.
You've still got plenty of time. Well, look, really lovely to spend some time with you. I know I'm probably not going to see you again for a while unless you catch me up because you're going to Katahdin. You're still heading with Katahdin, but you'll be off for about 2 or 3 days, won't you?
Yes, sir. We'll do a little fishing.
Well, I hope I catch up with you again and we'll speak then.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yep, he didn't want to talk much about the hike, but he did want to say happy birthday to his girlfriend, which I thought was really nice. And when I saw old Ben looking out and smiling, he came and joined us, and that was really nice as well. I really like those guys. I really hope I catch up with them again because they're going off on this trout fishing. So when they get back, I hope I'll see them again. Well, we all turned in about 7 o'clock, and as I said, I just loved it back in my tent. There seems to be nothing like it, and I actually slept pretty darn well. Day 31, Deer Park Mountain Shelter, mile 271.7 to Hot Springs, mile 274.8. Yep, it worked out exactly as I'd hoped, and Nero. Now, back in 2014 rather, when I did this, I remember meeting up with a bunch of youngsters that I'd hiked a little bit with before at the Smoky Mountain Diner. And I always remember that breakfast. It was just a great breakfast. Bunch of lovely people, tons of great food, and I knew this was going to be good. And for the first time ever, I met Shoeless in there, and we both had country fried steak, which I've never had before, biscuits and gravy, 2 fried eggs and hash browns with Texas Pete hot sauce and a bucket load of coffee. Happy days as far as I'm concerned. And when the meal turns up, and by the way, we were joined by the Bens for breakfast, and they had a similar sort of breakfast, and all 4 of us had 2 plates each of stuff. You know, there's just so much food, you couldn't put it all on one plate. What an absolute treat that was. And my memories of 2014 were really rekindled by this breakfast, the whole atmosphere of the place. It is a cannot miss place when you come to Hot Springs. It's on the left-hand side as you come in. Go into that diner. It is awesome. After breakfast, this guy Shoeless, he's an interesting fella. Very quiet, I think quite shy, and he's not a big party person at all, but then, you know, who is on this trail, I guess. He's thoughtful, and we had a chat because he's got a really interesting way he's approaching this trail. So listen to what Shoeless says. Okay, I'm sitting outside the Smoky Mountain Diner in Hot Springs with Dan Gussmeyer. Hey, Dan, why are you called Shoeless?
Well, I spent a lot of my time at the camp without shoes, but really stuck when I was hiking from top of Georgia to Franklin. My shoes wore out.
They wore out so early?
Oh, they're old shoes. And I was trying to get a few miles out of them.
Right. You got new ones now, though?
Yeah. The shoes wore out, so I went 30 miles without shoes.
What were you wearing?
My feet?
No socks? Oh, my gosh. Did you cut yourself?
No, actually. When I got to camp on the last day, I actually stepped on a thorn, but besides that...
Oh, I bet that hurt, didn't it?
Not really. It was just... As soon as you're done, you cut yourself doing nothing.
Yeah, but it's funny enough, whenever I've seen you so far, you just take your shoes off in camp, you walk around camp barefoot now, anyway, don't you? You really are shoes. So now I know you're doing this on a strict budget. How are you finding it? Yours is really quite a limited budget per month, isn't it?
It's It's been working out. I mean, it's tight, but it's manageable.
Well, I've got to say, you probably carry more food than anybody else in the trail so far. So why is that? You just picking up food as and when?
Oh, I pick it up as I get it, and I got a bunch of stuff that's just really cheap. But you get more, you get cheaper, so it lasts longer. You don't have to stop as often.
And so, have you had to make other compromises with your hike, because your pack seems huge, and everything's sort of hanging out at the back of it as well.
Well, it's just a big sleeping bag, you know, mat, but besides that, most of it's just food.
Yeah, and how are you coping with the nights? Because you said you got a minus 20-degree bag, and yet you're still quite cold sometimes.
It just doesn't hold the heat. I mean, wind goes right through it, I guess. I'm not sure. But if I sleep in that shelter, it's not as bad, but staying in a hammock, it's cold.
Yeah, I'm sure. So you're looking forward to the decent weather, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when do you on this budget, how long are you planning to finish? When are you planning to finish?
I'm trying to get done in 4.5 months, but it might take as long as 5.
Right. So you've got to really keep the budget going for 5 months. Okay. Well, look, we all wish you well. We just had breakfast with the two Bens as well, and everybody admires what you're doing. So I hope it works out for you.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. What a task he's given himself. I really hope that he makes it. But he knows how tough it is. I think he's quite realistic. And he knows he hasn't got enough money really to do this right now, but he's really going to try to do it in 4.5 months, and he thinks it'll just about last. So good for him. I don't think that many people quite realize how much you literally hemorrhage money when you're in town. He's trying to avoid it as much as possible. He's trying to stay in the woods as long as possible. For me, I couldn't do it that way. It isn't something I could live with comfortably. He seems very happy. He walks around shoeless in camp as well. His feet must be freezing. And having walked part of the trail in no shoes at all, well, I admire the heck out of him. I really do. And as I say, I really hope he makes it. I booked Elmer's or Sunnybank Inn, and it's a beautiful building, by the way. It's got magnificent balconies all the way around the building. Very old-fashioned, and I'm sitting in the bedroom now. I've got my own bedroom, which is great. I've got a bathroom outside. It's got old chairs and a nice, comfortable bed, and it's a very reasonable place. And the great thing about Elmer's is it has this 5-course vegetarian dinner, which I'm looking forward to in about an hour and a half's time. And so I signed up for that vegetarian feast, and I'll be having breakfast tomorrow as well. But when I turned up here, there was no one here. You just leave your poles and your outdoor shoes on the outside. I said, come in. So it says open. So I walked in. I used the facilities, went to the loo, and just sat down and waited till somebody turned up and said who I was. And they were very fine, very happy to see me. Got someone to show me around the whole place, tell me a bit of the history of the place. And Elmer said he could speak to me, and I'm going to try to record him after dinner tonight for the next show. Coco, one of the guys I have met several times, another British guy. He has so many 0 days, and yet we're in the same place. So what can I tell you? He does 20, 25-mile days and then spends 3 or 4 days in the place. He's been here a couple of days already. He spent 4 days in Fontana Dam. He was in NOC for 2 or 3 days as well. He's a very funny guy, a lot of fun. And I met up with him again here. He said, do your washing now. There's no laundry in this place, unfortunately. There's very little in the town, if any. So I used a thing I brought with me called a scrubber. And this scrubber is like a stuff sack. It's made of plastic. It's a little bit heavier than a regular stuff sack. It's got these pimples on the bottom of it. I may have already told you this, by the way. I apologise if I have. You put your clothes in there, water and some camp soap, and you let the air out, and you just rub your clothes back and forth on these pimples, and the muck that comes out of them is horrendous. So I did 3 lots of washing on my scrubber and hung everything on the line to dry in the sun. So I'm going to go and get them
back from the garden in a minute. So after that, I went for a beer or two with Coco, which was very nice. The problem with local beers, I don't know how strong they are sometimes, and so 2 was more than enough for me. So I was happy with that. And so, you've got this opportunity when you're in town to do something different than hiking, but your mind's always on your hiking. So I had to go to the gear store to get a resupply of food. We're going to Irwin. I think I've got about 70 miles to go. I think that's going to give me at least 4, possibly even 5 nights in the woods. So I actually bought 5 days of provisions, and I bought more than I normally would because I just need more food to get myself over some of these mountains. So that's my day. I mean, it may seem like a wasted day to some people, but I feel once again it gives you this opportunity to get your equilibrium back, and I think that's an important thing on a hike. As I may have mentioned before, my buddy Grizz says to me that you should look at an Appalachian Trail hike as 3 and 4 day adventures between stops in town, and that's what I'm trying to do. So having a Nero, while it's not a zero, is a worthwhile thing for me and how it makes my hike work. It wouldn't work for Shoeless. It just wouldn't work that way at all for him. But as everybody says, you've got to hike your own hike. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I'll see you next time.